All right, guys, this is Tex here with Red Like Reagan. I'm gonna try a different format here today. Um, I've just been doing commentary, taking notes on Democratic National Convention, so it didn't seem to be working so well. So I'm gonna try something a little different. I haven't seen too many political channels do just reactions on the spot to speeches. Now, mind you, I haven't listened to any of this at all, so bear with me um, as we get through this. But we're gonna go ahead and get started, guys.
It comes from China.
That I am here tonight is a testament to the dedication of generations before me. Women and men who believed so fiercely in the promise of equality, liberty, and justice for all. This week marks the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, and we celebrate the women who fought for that right. Yet so many of the Black women who helped secure that victory were still prohibited from voting long after its ratification. But they were undeterred. Without fanfare or recognition, they organized and testified and rallied and marched and fought, not just for their vote, but for a seat at the table. These women and the generations that followed make democracy and opportunity real in the lives of all of us who followed. They paved the way for the trailblazing leaders of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. And these women inspired us to pick up the torch and fight on. Women like Mary Church Terrell, Mary Cloyd Bethune, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Diane Nash, Constance Baker Motley, and the great Shirley Chisholm. We're not often taught their stories, but as Americans, we all stand on their shoulders. And there's another woman whose name isn't known.
Stand on their shoulders. Yeah, they're standing on their shoulders, all right. You're completely stealing history from them by saying you're the first African American vice presidential candidate when you were just Indian 4 years ago. But who am I to say anything? I don't control the narrative. So, anyways.
Whose story isn't shared. Another woman whose shoulders I stand on. And that's my mother, Shamala Gopalan Harris. She came here from India at age 19 to pursue her dream of curing cancer. At the University of California, Berkeley, she met my father, Donald Harris, who had come from Jamaica to study economics. They fell in love in that most American way while marching together for justice in the civil rights movement of the 1960s. In the streets of Oakland and Berkeley, I got a stroller's eye view of people getting into what the great John Lewis called good trouble. When I was 5, my parents split, and my mother raised us mostly on her own. Like so many mothers, she worked around the clock to make it work, packing lunches before we woke up and paying bills after we went to bed, helping us with homework at the kitchen table and shuttling us to church for choir practice. She made it look easy, though it never was. My mother instilled in my sister Maya and me the values that would chart the course of our lives. She raised us to be proud, strong Black women, and she raised us to know and be proud of our Indian heritage. She taught us to put family first, the family you're born into and the family you choose. Family is my husband, Doug, who I met on a blind date set up by my best friend. Family is our beautiful children, Cole and Ella, who call me Kamala. Family is my sister. Family is my best friend. my nieces, and my godchildren. Family is my uncle.
We are 4 minutes into this, and I have heard nothing about policy. I mean, she's just continuing the Democratic rambling of incoherent nonsense and the same bullshit rhetoric that they continue to go with. At this point, I think people want to hear policies. I'm hoping that she gets into it here soon, but if everyone else's speeches are any indication, I doubt that's going to happen.
My aunts, and my chitties. Family is Mrs. Shelton, my second mother who lived 2 doors down and helped raise me. Family is my beloved Alpha Kappa Alpha, our Divine Nine, and my HBCU brothers and sisters. Family is the friends I turn to when
the same HBCUs that Trump gave more money to for a prolonged period of time, but he's a racist. Just remember, he's a racist.
My mother, the most important person in my life, passed away from cancer. And even as she taught us to keep our family at the center of our world.
If you manage a team, you have to try Monday.com. Monday.com is a platform to track everything your team is working on. We use it for all our projects, marketing, product development.
She also pushed us to see a world beyond ourselves. She taught us to be conscious and compassionate about the struggles of all people, to believe public service is a noble cause and the fight for justice is a shared responsibility. That led me to become a lawyer, a district attorney, attorney general, and a United States senator. And at every step of the way, I've been guided.
Notice something different here. When she ran for Congress in 2016, she was dead set on her record as a prosecutor. It was the greatest thing ever. She ran on the platform. Notice here she mentioned she was a lawyer, but she doesn't run on the platform. She distances herself from it. I mean, if you think about it, it's probably a smart idea on her behalf because it avoids the questions of, hey, why were innocent men left on death row while you weren't giving evidence? She's trying to curb it, trying to get away from those questions, but I don't think the longer this goes on, the higher the possibility is she's going to have to face those questions, or at least I hope so, at some point, because she needs to be held accountable and answer how she's going to fix the problems that her party and her presidential running mate helped cause.
By the words I spoke from the first time I stood in a courtroom. Kamala Harris for the people. I have fought for children and survivors of sexual assault. I fought against transnational criminal organizations. I took on the biggest banks and helped take down one of the biggest for-profit colleges. I know a predator when I see one. My mother taught me that service to others gives...
She knows a predator when she sees one, but she's running for vice president with a predator. Something seems a little off there, don't you think? It's a little bit like all these things are contradictory to themselves, and we're just supposed to ignore the contradictions and go on like they're just one big happy family, as she put it. Highly doubt that.
Life, purpose, and meaning. And oh, how I wish she were here tonight, but I know she's looking down on me from above. I keep thinking about that 25-year-old Indian woman, all of 5 feet tall, who gave birth to me at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. On that day, she probably could have never imagined that I would be standing before you now and speaking these words.
She probably never imagined that you'd be a lying piece of shit either, so there's that.
I accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States of America. I do so
Yay.
committed to the values she taught me, to the word that teaches me to walk by faith and not by sight, and to a vision passed on through generations of Americans, one that Joe Biden shares, a vision of our nation as a beloved community where all are welcome, no matter what we look like, no matter where we come from or who we love. A country where we may not agree on every detail.
Last time I checked, everyone is allowed here, regardless of race, religion, or any of those things. You just want them here without going through the right legal process. And we don't. Simple as that.
But we are united by the fundamental belief that every human being is of infinite worth, deserving of compassion, dignity, and respect. A country where we look out for one another, where we rise and fall as one, where we face our challenges and celebrate our triumphs together. Today, that country feels distant. Donald Trump's failure of leadership has cost lives and livelihoods. If you're a parent struggling with your child's remote learning, or you're a teacher struggling on the other side of that screen, you know what we're doing right now is not working. And
Yeah, no shit, what we're doing right now is not working. All these fucking kids need to be in school where they're not having suicidal thoughts, or they're not isolated from their friends, or they're not at home being sexually abused or beat on. That's what's not working. Dumbass.
And we are a nation that is grieving the loss of life, the loss of jobs, the loss of opportunities, the loss of normalcy, and yes, the loss of certainty. And while this virus touches us all, we got to be honest, it is not an equal opportunity offender. Black, Latino, and Indigenous people are suffering and dying disproportionately. And this is not a coincidence. It is the effect of structural racism, of inequities in education and technology.
Wait a second. Did this bitch just tell me that the coronavirus is targeting people of color? Did y'all go vote for this bitch? Oh, God help us.
Healthcare and housing, job security and transportation. The injustice in reproductive and maternal health care, in the excessive use of force by police, and in our broader criminal justice system.
I'm still trying to figure out what any of this shit has to do with coronavirus. You figure out what they're doing here. They're using trigger words, key push button words, anything that'll get you to pay attention, that'll get this to trend, that'll get people to be like, oh, she said something that I think is important. It's really not. She hasn't provided shit right here. She threw the coronavirus in with everything else that they say is a problem and didn't address a single thing. But what should we expect?
This virus, it has no eyes, and yet it knows exactly how we see each other and how we treat each other.
Somebody want to tell me how the hell a virus knows what's going on with how I treat somebody that's next to me or how you treat somebody else? This ain't making any sense at all. None whatsoever.
And let's be clear, there is no vaccine for racism. We've got to do the work.
Yeah, there is a vaccine for racism. It's already been done in the 60s. Dumbass. There's no racism in America. If there's racism in America, those people are few and far between, and you don't see that much of them. You want to talk about racism, talk about the fact that the left, the Democratic Party, all the people that they refuse to say anything about make people feel guilty for their race. That's racism. I'll call it, I'll say it, just because I'm white. Oh, it's going to make me a bad guy for saying that, yeah, there are black people that are racist. You think that I should have be feel guilty because of what my ancestors did? Yeah, that's racism, dumbass. There's no racism coming except from your side.
For George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for the lives of too many others to name, for our children.
I love how the woman who prosecuted criminals unjustly is all of a sudden worried about what happens to criminals at the hands of the police officers.
And for all of us. We've got to do the work to fulfill that promise of equal justice under law. Because here's the thing, none of us are free until all of us are free.
Last time I checked, it's a free country. Read the Constitution. This race baiting bullshit that y'all keep pushing is really old. Nobody's free. Last time I checked, it's a free country. Everyone's free here. Unless you break the law and you go to jail, you come here illegally and end up detained, which is still breaking the law. You're free. Period. Simple as that. The only way you're not free is mentally, in your mind. Maybe you should address that issue first.
So we're at an inflection point. The constant chaos leaves us adrift. The incompetence makes us feel afraid. The callousness makes us feel alone. It's a lot. And here's the thing. We can do better and deserve so much more. We must elect a president who will bring something different, something better, and do the important work. A president who will bring all of us together, Black, white, Latino, Asian, Indigenous, to achieve the future we collectively want. We must elect Joe Biden. And I will tell you, I knew Joe as vice president. I knew Joe.
Oh, here comes the ass kissing, where we're supposed to forget everything bad she said about Biden when she railed him in the primaries. But I'll digress.
On the campaign trail. And I first got to know Joe as the father of my friend. So Joe's son, Bo.
Am I the only one tired of the story?
Hi, I'm Brett Cowan, and in this video, I'm going to show you how anyone can quickly and easily create doodle videos, just like the one you're watching right now, using Doodly, our drag-and-drop doodle software that allows anyone, regardless.
And I served as attorneys general of our states, Delaware and California. During the Great Recession, he and I spoke on the phone nearly every day, working together to win back billions of dollars for homeowners from the big banks that foreclosed on people's homes. And Bo and I, we would talk about his family, how as a single father, Joe would spend 4 hours every day riding the train back and forth from Wilmington to Washington. Bo and Hunter got to have breakfast every morning with their dad. They went to sleep every night with the sound of his voice reading bedtime stories. And while they endured an unspeakable loss, those two little boys always knew that they were deeply, unconditionally loved. And what also moved me about Joe is the work that he did as he was going back and forth. This is the leader who wrote the Violence Against Women Act and enacted the assault weapons ban, who as vice president implemented the Recovery Act, which brought our country back from the Great Recessions. He championed the Affordable Care Act, protecting millions of Americans with pre-existing conditions, who spent decades promoting American values and interests around
The same Affordable Care Act that costing Americans quality health care. The same policies that he pushed against African Americans. And if you go look it up, you can go look up his policies, his policy history. Everything was racially geared. But I guess that's just American values, as she said, right? No.
the world. Joe, he believes we stand with our allies and stand up to our adversaries.
Last time I checked, President Trump is standing with our allies, which have gotten stronger, and against our enemies, which are also getting stronger. Simple, just a thought.
Right now, we have a president who turns our tragedies into political weapons. Joe will be a president who turns behind, where a good-paying job is the floor, not the ceiling. Joe will bring us together to end this pandemic and make sure.
I guess she's talking about living wages there. Again, living wages are not good. $15 an hour sounds good on the surface, and it puts more money in your pocket if you're working a crappy 9-to-5 job. But at the end of the day, it makes everybody poor. Because then there's businesses that don't meet the minimum requirements that it's going to take for them to keep the overhead down and still pay their employees. So they're going to have to close their doors. I think that number's around, and if you don't bring in 35 grand a year, you're closing doors. You're closing shop. That leaves Americans without jobs. That then starts to breed a welfare state where people are living off the government, which is what they want. Don't let them fool you here, people. That's the end game.
Sure that we are prepared for the next one. Joe will bring us together to squarely face and dismantle racial injustice, furthering the work of generations. Joe and I believe that we can build that beloved community, one that is strong and decent, just and kind, one in which we can all see ourselves. That's the vision that our parents and grandparents fought for. The vision that made my own life possible. The vision that makes the American
Let me tell you what our parents and grandparents fought for. Not communism, not tearing down the history of this country, not calling everything racist when it's not making people feel guilty about who they are or what they believe. That's not what people fought for. They didn't fall for any of this communist bullshit that you cocksuckers continue to push down everybody's throat. That's not what people fought for. This is not the America that people fought and died for. And the fact that you want us to think that it is, it's a crock of shit.
promise, for all its complexities and imperfections, a promise worth fighting for. So make no mistake, the road ahead is not easy. We may stumble. We may fall short. But I pledge to you that we will act boldly and deal with our challenges honestly. We will speak truths, and we will act with the same faith in you that we ask you to place in us. We believe that our country, all of us, will stand together for a better future. And we already are. We see it in the doctors, the nurses, the home health care workers, and frontline workers who are risking their lives to save people they've never met. We see it in the teachers and truck drivers, the factory workers and farmers, the postal workers and poll workers, all putting their own safety on the line to help us get through this pandemic. And we see it in so many of you who are working, not just to get us through our current crisis, but to somewhere better. There's something happening all across our country. It's not about Joe or me. It's about you. And it's about us. People of all ages and colors and creeds who are, yes, taken to the streets, and also persuading our family members, rallying our friends, organizing our neighbors.
You mean intimidating and scaring people? Same tactics used by the Klan. You people ain't fooling nobody. You're intimidating people. You're scaring people. People are scared they're going to be canceled for something they believe in. Same tactics used by the KKK. You're doing the same thing under a different name. It's just out there as peaceful protests. Y'all are so full of shit. Y'all been doing this for decades, and somehow it's still working.
And getting out the vote. And we have shown that when we vote, we expand access to health care and expand access to the ballot box and ensure that more working families can make a decent living. And I'm so inspired by a new generation. You are pushing us to realize the ideals of our nation, pushing us to live the values we share: decency and fairness, justice and love. You are patriots who remind us that to love our country.
You just compare all those stupid motherfuckers in the street that are tearing down statues, trying to burn down federal buildings, and flat out destroying cities. Patriots? There's nothing patriotic about that, bitch. Get out of here. That's anarchy. That's domestic terrorism. That's what we go to places like Afghanistan and Iraq to quell, to stop, to keep it from happening. But you're not allowed to happen on our own soil. Because it benefits you. Go figure.
Is to fight for the ideals of our country. In this election, we have a chance to change the course of history. We're all in this fight. You, me, and Joe, together.